There will be many times when the existing tables within Project don't quite meet your needs. Then you'll either want to create a brand new table or edit an existing table within Project to get the information out that you need. As you learned when we were working with views, it's best practice to make a copy of the original table rather than modifying it directly to ensure the integrity of the information when you're sharing your project information with others. You don't want to start manipulating the information to suit yourself, share it with a colleague who's working on a different project who doesn't quite see the things the same way as you do, and then have some miscommunication in the information as you're passing them back and forth. So always take a copy of the original and modify it to suit your needs rather than going in and actually changing the original tables that come with the application. So if you'd like to follow along, I've opened up the Project Tables exercise file. And I have it open up at the Gantt chart view, and I know that because over here on my view bar, I have that particular icon highlighted. Going back up to the Select All button and right-clicking. This gives me my drop-down list of all the available tables I'm working with. I'm going to go down to the bottom here and I'm going to click More Tables. Now, this is very similar to what we've already looked at in our previous movie. And I'm going to select the Cost table because that's the one I want to work with to create my own table. So I simply come up to the top of the dialog box, click the Cost table, and click Copy. Now I have a table definition dialog box coming up. And the first thing I want to do is I want to put in the new name of my custom table. So I'm going to call this Web Plan Cost Table. Next, I want to come down to this area here and select the information that I want to show in my custom table. I do want the ID of the task, so I want to leave that in there. I do want the name of the task so that I can understand what I'm looking at. I don't really care to see fixed cost, so I'm going to delete that row. I select the field that I don't want to have in here and I click Delete. Similarly, I don't want the accrual method shown. I do want to show the cost though, so I'm going to leave that in there. I'll leave the baseline cost and the cost variances also, and my actual cost. I don't really care about my remaining cost, so I'm going to remove that. If there is other information that I want to have shown to me, I can click Insert Row, which adds a row in, as also I can place that insert row anywhere I want within the field name, because what I'm doing here is I'm creating the list of information that I'm going to see when I have my table, so I'm actually ordering my fields as well. I want to add in the budgeted cost for my reference in this particular table, so I'm going to drop down the list in the row that I've inserted so that I can grab the field name of the data that I want to pull up. I'm going to do a quick search by clicking on the B to bring me down to the beginnings of the list that has B in it. And I'm just going to scroll through. Actually, I'm going to even save more time by putting in the whole word. So BU brings me down to budget cost. I make my selection. And I click the checkbox to ensure that I actually solidify that field where I want it. Okay, so now you see it's part of my field names, and it's going to be in the third field that I'm going to display on my table. If I look across the row, I can do a few other things with this particular field. I can align the data. Do I want it aligned right, left, or centered? What will be the size of the field that I'm working with? I'm going to leave it as the defaults that come with the application because the constraints are good here, and I want to make sure I capture all the information that I have the ability to input. I'm going to put in a title myself because I don't necessarily want it to default to the field name. So I'm going to say budgeted costs. I'm going to leave my title aligned in the center of my column. And I'm going to include header wrapping so that my column titles aren't truncated when it goes onto my table. The date format is going to be the default. If I wanted to change it, I have the drop-down list that I can choose the different presentations of my date. As well, I can determine how high my row height is, and I'm going to leave it as the default of 1 as well. I'm going to lock the first column of data, which means that the ID will always be the very first column that I have here, so it helps me do my sorting. And I'm going to allow the application to auto-adjust the header row heights just to make it look good. I now am happy with all of the information that I've input for my table. The one last thing I want to do is I want to make sure it shows up in my menu. So just like when we were creating views, if I make this selection here, it's going to be one of the options that I can select when I click on the View menu up here in my menu bar. Otherwise, I'd have to open up this particular table to get the information and to see my new table. So I'm going to click OK. That takes my settings and now places them in the More Tables area here. If I want to now apply those settings to my active screen, I click the Apply button, and it now takes the information and it presents me with my fields. So here's my ID, here's my task name, here's my budgeted cost, that's the one that I inserted. Here's the total cost, the baseline, the variance, and the actual fields that we had used as our defaults. That's how easy it is to create a brand new table for yourself. Now, if we're going to edit it, it's very simple as well. Again, you right-click on the Select All button, go down to More Tables, select the table that you want to edit, and click the Edit button. And then you have the same screen presented to you, and you make your adjustments as required. We may come back and look at this same view later on to see how we can use this to add information into our project and update things. Next, we're going to be looking at techniques that we can use to adjust the look of our tables in Project.